Verbinski's BioShock film is dead in the water. Ken Levine is taking responsibility.
Well, I mean, if we wanted someone to pat in the back, then we've got Ken, don't we?
I guess so.
Yeah. It's it's one of these things where you're probably better off not knowing what it would have turned out like. I mean, video game to movie transitions haven't exactly been cinematic successes, if I'm being charitable.
I mean, the idea of BioShock compared to some of these other properties that could be movies, I think it had potential, but not a PG-13 BioShock. That just would have been awful, I think. Because BioShock is such a gory game when you think about what you're doing for the majority of the playtime. It's just...
Well, it's disturbing at the very least.
That's a good word for it.
Here you have all of these kind of disfigured, warped, almost caricatures of people running around completely insane. And so, I mean, unless you're going to make it about Rapture in the period right up to the Revolution, where things aren't so desperate and broken and just deteriorating as they are when you visit Rapture in BioShock, I can't see how you could do it any justice and not have the MPAA give that an R rating. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, yeah. Think about Big Daddies. They have giant drills. You obviously want them to be drilling in the movie. I don't think you could get away with that in PG-13. You think about Little Sisters, the implications there. You know, you could kill them in the game. That's kind of a mature theme. So.
Well, I think that aspect of it would be overlooked. I think you'd have to... I would be willing to bet that any sort of big daddy, little sister relationship exploration would almost be as, like central character figures in some way. And again, that's another, like, at what point do the little girls get introduced? And how do you... Oh, it's just too overwhelming to think about.
There would be a lot to fit into this movie and not make it super long and boring, I think, with exposition.
There's also, I mean, the prequel novel, which does cover the building of Rapture right from the very start all the way up to when you see the downfall starting to happen. But that's a book, and then you've got the game really with the main story, and to even kind of combine the two would be quite disjointed. You wouldn't be able to pull it off without doing a lot of changes, and you know what online communities are like when there's a lot of changes happen to their beloved franchise. It's kind of, you're making the story cohesive. No, it should be split in two, just like the game and the book,
God forbid this stuff all makes sense and be delivered in a clear and direct manner.
Yeah.
At least the ending would feel better in a movie. The ending of the first BioShock.
Yeah, can you imagine all the people walking out of the cinema going, man, that was good up until 2/3 of the way through, and then just...
I don't even know what to say about the whole God of War. It's one of those things where it doesn't bother me, and yet I don't condone it at the same time. It just is a thing that happened.
What we have here is a failure to communicate. Like... The big deal being made out of the Bros Before Hose trophy, I think it was a matter of misinterpretation. And maybe that's the sin. Maybe that's the thing that we should be, maybe it's a perfectly valid complaint that the presentation was done in a way that someone could draw this conclusion. Because what happens in the video, or in the sequence, is Kratos fights a Fury, and it's like all of these boss encounter type things in God of War. The first time you encounter an enemy, you get that vicious, brutal confrontation that just showcases the brutality of the game. And so that happens. And then Kratos goes and talks to a secondary male character who he makes an agreement with to kill the Furies. And that is what the trophy refers to. That moment in the game where he makes the agreement. But because it comes immediately off the heels of this incredibly violent encounter, I can see how someone might get the wrong impression.
But I think it's actually as much as that as it is just the language, the term bros before hoes, and having it in a God of War game. You know what I mean? It's such a kind of disconnect between this series based on ancient Greek mythology, however loosely, and then having this kind of up-to-date kind of frat boy phrasing
and yet,
used
at the
for a
same
trophy.
time, but look at the guy who made God of War.
Yeah.
Look at David Jaffe. If anything, it's an homage to him.
I see what you're saying. It seemed like lazy writing.
It is lazy writing. It's not like a clever joke. But I don't think it would have been a big deal the way it was if they had just timed it differently. The phrase is stupid, and anyone who would use it deserves any sort of kind of backlash they get anyway, I guess. But it bugs me that people were getting it wrong. I think that's the thing. That's the issue I have with it. I'm less offended by the fact that this thing existed, and I don't give a crap that they're changing it. It doesn't matter to me one way or another there. It's when a controversy happens and I look at it and I say, but we got it wrong. Why did we get it wrong?
It was really misrepresented the way I heard it too originally. It was like, boom, you instantly get the achievement, and there's quite a delay.
Yeah, there's a bit of distance there between them, and actually at the same time, like in a lot of Sony products, what I find is that you complete the boss encounter and then you have the cutscene and then you get the achievement for killing the boss. That happens all the time. So again, another way in which I can see somebody getting the wrong impression, even though it's not right.
For not the first time ever.
No. And, it's over as quickly as it started. I don't think, although, good timing for Anita Sarkeesian.
Michael Pachter, the fountain of wisdom that he is, has been talking about Activision charging a subscription fee for Call of Duty multiplayer for a while now. I mean, he's been talking about that a couple of years. And now this seems like the first kind of step towards that. You wonder if the people that are playing Call of Duty multiplayer are A, going to mind, and B, really care that, I can pay an extra couple of bucks here and there, get multipliers, get, new perks, get, an extra slot or whatever. I mean, are they going to care that it affects the balance, or are they going to care that, I already spent $60 in the game at launch, and here I am paying more money for it on top of presumably my season pass. What about my, Call of Duty XP as well? If you're putting that much money down, does an extra little microtransaction really change it for you? And if not, then cool, go for it. It's optional, and it's up to you to decide if that's how you want to spend your money.
Well, here's what they say that they're adding to Black Ops 2. Personalization packs, which come with weapon camo and targeting reticules and a custom calling card, and that's a couple of bucks. Then extra loadout slots, plus more, I guess, server-side storage for emblems, films, and screenshots. And that's $2. And then national flag-themed calling cards. So, this is all just personalization stuff. In the post we have on here, I guess Chris Carter had pointed out in the chat that the extra loadout slots could have a minor effect on gameplay. But
at this point in time, the people who play games and are still playing Call of Duty and are still playing it now, that's not going to matter.
No, I can't imagine any game where I would feel I would need to have access to more than 5 different loadout configurations. That's the sort of thing where I might say, I'll buy the extra loadout slots because I have these ones that I always use, but I want to have something fun to play around with and goof off and try experimental stuff. I could see that, but hell, I can't play a Call of Duty game long enough to unlock a second loadout slot. So,
yeah. Do you think that this does signal a first step into Call of Duty being a separate multiplayer package and having a subscription, or being financed by microtransactions, or is that going to be what they're going to do for Activision are going to do for Bungie's game Destiny when it comes out?
I think it probably is the sign of a first. Right now, there's no need for them to separate the products unless they want to eliminate the expense of a single player campaign, which they don't seem to want to do because they still hire professional, highly paid actors to do voice work for them and all that jazz. So they still pump a ton of money into that aspect of it, but they don't. I don't get the impression that they want to spin that out as a separate product either.
It's every year that we say, hey, this is going to be the year it's going to break. This is going to be the year that a Call of Duty game doesn't sell as well as the previous year. And every year it just keeps selling more. So, I mean, the attitude is if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's exactly
why would they?
Say. I don't. They would have to see some poor performance before they did anything too drastic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to do something like that would truly damage the franchise in a major way, like having all of your servers not work for the first week of the game's release.